Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking Cubs, we're going to be talking White Sox, we're going to be probably talking about Brian Urlacher, and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. They're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. So what does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season is over, and we don't know when things are going to restart because of COVID, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehawks.com, getting yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, signing up for season tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how have you been, my friend?
I've been doing okay, making a few adjustments in life, but other than that, doing okay.
Yeah, how are the adjustments going? I mean, I know it has been brief, but...
Yeah, it's just kind of getting used to everything, and for those who don't know, basically I was really active on sports Twitter, and now I've kind of stepped away from that just because I'm focusing on my full-time job, and Twitter was just getting too distracting, and it's kind of a cesspool anyway. So yeah, I'll still be here talking sports, but I won't be talking much sports on Twitter these days. But it's a little different trying to keep track of the latest news and what going on without it. But there are ways to do it. You don't need Twitter for everything, so it's just kind of a matter of getting used to it, because I had been using it as a tool to try to build a sports reputation for so long, and I felt like I've built a decent one for being a fan that does, that's trying to kind of make his way. But, other things take priority in life, and the fact that I'm still able to come on here and talk sports is right now good enough for me, because sometimes in life you just got to make tougher decisions.
Yeah, I've always been at that point. A lot of social media, especially Facebook and Twitter, a lot less so on, Instagram, but much more so on Facebook and Twitter. The negativity and the toxicity can get really daunting. I mean,
oh yeah,
you post, hey, have a nice day, and 10 people are screaming, there's cancer patients that are dying and you're being happy. Or I'm glad my team won today.
You can never escape that kind of thing.
I don't understand. I like to laugh, and it's for me, it's much more enjoyable when you're making, lighthearted jokes. And sure, I joke about a lot of stuff, but I do it like tongue in cheek. I try not to, laugh like, their wife got in a car accident and broke her arm. Ha 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 ha. I try to joke about things that, are in the realm of joking around, but not everybody is like that. There's a lot of just really toxic people, and I totally get it. And, there was a time I really tried to push more on Twitter, and it was just a lot. So now I have like a core group of people that I respond to, and there's people I just choose to not listen to because I can't deal with their hatred and bad attitudes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes you can't really avoid it while not avoiding it by like staying on social media and constantly reading it. Sometimes you just gotta completely turn your back to it. And that's what I've tried to do. And I've tried to do everything to kind of get rid of that temptation, because that temptation lingers big time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. It's sometimes a necessary evil to just turn your back completely.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to get used to it because, I'm used to live tweeting games when they're happening. I'm used to tweeting out the work I do with sports. I'm used to interacting with people, talking about trades that have been made or what, all that stuff. But, now I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. And, the Cubs played a doubleheader and there was plenty to tweet about then, but I'm like, nope. And basically what I've done is, I've axed my old account. That old account had over 5,000 followers, and I was very lucky to have those people. And, part of me felt kind of bothered at myself. I'm like, man, I worked really hard to build that following and establish the friendship with a lot of people. But, what I did was I created another account where I just followed and established that connection again with a lot of the close people I was with on sports Twitter. So we don't break the connection, but I don't really tweet and use it much. I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to do it because if I didn't deactivate the old Twitter account, it would be so much easier just to get right back on it and start doing what I've tried to get away from again. And I didn't want that. So I figured the best move was to just keep that connection with those people, but completely deactivate the other account. That way I wouldn't really be tempted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I have a friend that was the same. He made the choice to just completely deactivate it, so you can't, whatever it is, the permanent get rid of. So it was like there's no opportunity to just let me sign back on for a day or two and then sign back off. Like he just completely eliminated Facebook and Twitter and things.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, too, is I've tried in the past to be one of those, I'm just going to kind of take a break or, I'm just going to kind of, stay off a little bit, but never really fully get rid of it. And I found myself going back constantly and that just wasn't working. And, if I were still trying to make, sports talk, sports writing a full-time gig right now, then I'd obviously be much more tempted to stay on. But, the fact that, I have a full-time job in another industry and I'm really trying to focus on that right now made the decision a lot easier. And I felt like I've kept the door open and that's good. But, right now I got to prioritize other things. So I think it's kind of the best balance of both worlds.
Yeah, good for you. Congratulations.
It's not easy. I'll tell you that. It's not easy.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's I have a much easier time, like, just turning it off for a few days and then coming back. I would have a real hard time completely deactivating things, but kudos to you. That's a huge step, and and
well, thank you.
And taking, you realize how much more you can accomplish in real life when you don't spend as much time on Twitter.
Well, and that's the thing too. I found myself constantly opening the phone and looking at what was going on, and in times that I shouldn't be. I'm out eating dinner with friends or family. That's no time for that. I'm at home sitting on the couch watching a movie and I'm scrolling through. I should be watching the movie. I'm out on a walk. I shouldn't be walking and scrolling through, and that's where it was coming. And you shouldn't be doing that. I realized that it just wasn't a healthy habit.
Well, it's funny when you're talking to somebody that doesn't use social media at all, and you're trying to explain why you're constantly on it. Well, I'm fighting with Fart Zone 27, and he just said this, and you're just like, the person just looks at you like you have a third head, and you're like, well, when I say it out loud, it sounds really stupid, but.
Well, the thing, too, that you have to keep in mind, and, this has been studied quite a bit, is the fact that there are parts of the brain that flash and chemicals and all that good stuff that do all that kind of thing. like with a normal addiction, basically. You know, they're uh, addictive qualities that social media has that make your brain kind of flash those certain things where, you know, you get with dopamine. I think, you know, I'm not a medical expert. I haven't read too much on it, but, you know, there's certain chemicals, certain parts of the brain that are activated when you get certain things done on social media, like you get a retweet, you get a like. It's kind of that rewarding flash in your brain that, you know, sometimes happen when there's addictions. And it really comes down to me kind of fighting an addiction here. So, you know, it's easier said than done, because you're always telling yourself, oh, you did this for so long, or, oh, if you don't tweet this, this, and this, then, you know, you're missing an opportunity to get satisfaction when people agree with you. Again, it sounds really silly, but that's kind of what happens in your mind sometimes. So, you know, trying to fight that is part of it. But, you know, just a few days in, I'm actually kind of surprised that I'm doing better than maybe I thought I was, just because I've been so used to tweeting about sports all the time.
Just take the fresh air in from the break. Just take it in. It's enjoyable.
And you know what I've done so far is I've hung out with friends. We went on a nice long walk last night through the neighborhood, and today I went to Cantini Park and went through a little hike through Cantini Park. It was a beautiful day for it, and I wasn't really even thinking about social media. I was nice and relaxed about it.
Yeah, and it's probably good that you took this break with the Cubs playing like they are.
Well, between that and between everything else that's going on in the world, where, you know, you're still in the middle of a pandemic and there's a lot of unrest right now. It's a time to not be around it. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to start out with saying, really disappointed in Brian Urlacher.
Yeah.
It's just disappointing. You know, could he have said those things to the face of Lance Briggs or Charles Tillman or Lovie Smith or Matt Forte? Could he have said that right to their faces? I don't think he could have. And when you can't say it to somebody's face, then, you know, maybe that's a questionable thing to say in the first place. And kudos to Matt Forte for not pulling any punches on his response.
Yeah, no, he responded to it. You know, I give him a lot of credit for the way he responded. And, you know, I look at Brian Urlacher, the way I look at him the way I've always kind of looked at him. He's a great player, but I don't think he's really the guy that a lot of people would want to go out and get dinner with or sit at a bar with. I never really thought he'd say this kind of stuff, but he never seemed like the type of guy that was the nicest guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's folks that are dead. Like, this is like a literally life or death thing, and what he said was really widening the schism. It's a divisive thing, and what purpose is he trying to serve? Like, multiple people are dead. You know, there should be some. Even if he disagrees with the protests, you know, you should have some sort of semblance of decorum and empathy, and he just lacks both.
Yeah, I mean, you got to just be sensitive to ones who are hurting, be sensitive to those who are going through a tough time. And my philosophy in life is, if you don't have anything really nice to say, don't say it.
Yeah, it's, you know, if you don't understand, I mean, the position that he was in, he could have, if he didn't understand the reaction that's going on, do you know how many people he could reach out to and ask for insight on? I mean, he could call on any number of former teammates. He could have called
Sure.
on any number of former coaches. He's Brian Urlacher. He's an NFL Hall of Famer. You don't think he could have called LeBron James and been like, hey, I want to understand more of why you're so strongly thinking the opposite of what I think on a major issue.
Right.
And,
Sure.
And, see it from somebody else's perspective. And he didn't do that. He just took like the lowest road.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was cringeworthy to look at, and again, I never really looked at him to be a role model person personally. I just saw him as really good at football, and that was about it. There are athletes out there where you recognize their talent, but you're not exactly the biggest fan of them personally, and that's kind of how I've always felt about Brian Urlacher.
Yeah, and it just, it was hard to escape because he was the face of the franchise for like a decade.
Right.
So it's any sort of, team merchandise that had a player associated with it during that era, 8 out of 10 times it's Brian Urlacher.
Right.
If you have a video game and you're featuring a Bear player, if you're, they make an action figure of a Bears player, Brian Urlacher. If they're selling a shirt, probably Brian Urlacher. So it's just that if you were a Bears fan during that era, you probably have a ton of Brian Urlacher stuff. And that
was my childhood right there. That was the childhood player. He was the face of the franchise.
It's disappointing because there's a ton of Bear stuff in my house, and a lot of it is Brian Urlacher just because of how the longevity. And there was with the 85 team, there was so many personalities that there was no one that was dominant other than, say Walter Payton. But, there was so many names you could go with on things that, and it was much more of a team-oriented era. So, Brian Urlacher was the, more so the face of the franchise during an era when players were, as important as the team. So there's a lot of Urlacher stuff with my Bear stuff, and it's just disappointing. You just wish people would hear perspectives, and we're in a very divided country, and everyone's so worried about being right rather than having some sort of sense of understanding, empathy, and humility. There's nothing wrong with learning more about a topic and changing your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the whole premise of what science is based on. Is you make an educated decision based on the information in hand. You test that in your theory. If it doesn't hold up, then you change your theory. If you get more information, it could change your theory. There's nothing wrong with it. You go, I make my best decision based on the information I have, and you don't cherry pick the information. You take all the information in and sort it out. Is this good information? Is this bad information? And you take all the best information and you formulate the best theory that fits it. And you keep collecting data. And that's just, if people did that about opinions, we'd be a much more civilized and cohesive nation.
I think that's kind of an issue just with people in general is, even when, they're wrong or they've completely been shown that they're wrong, if they're in an argument, and this goes for anything, that they don't like acknowledging that they're wrong. They don't want to change their minds. They want to stick to what, they say no matter what. And, sometimes that can be hurtful.
It's why people surround themselves with sounding boards. Is they surround themselves with like-minded opinions, so they can just say whatever it is they believe, and no one challenges it. No one, and that's why a lot of people hate education and higher learning, because when in theory, when you're studying at college and above, you're surrounded by people with different ideas from different places and learning things you didn't know, not just about school, but about life. And people will challenge your ideas, and not in an aggressive way, but challenge you what you think and make you reevaluate it.
Yeah, exactly. Evaluating the situation.
Not like in a bad way, like, F you, this is stupid. And you're like, oh man, I just thought about that as stupid. No, but if all your life, let's something mundane. Like, oh man, I always thought I hated Mexican food, but I realized I never tried Mexican food. And I moved to an area where there's a lot of Hispanic people, and I made friends. My roommate from college was a Hispanic person. His mom sent him home with food, and it was amazing. And then I realized, oh, hey, I like Mexican food. And, it's something mundane like that. But, there's opinions about all types of things. And it just, experiencing new things breeds a more well-rounded and informed opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They say there's no such thing as a wrong opinion, but there absolutely is such thing as a stupid opinion.
Yeah, like, my opinion that John Lackey's the greatest pitcher of all time. That's pretty stupid.
Or when people think that New York pizza is better than, Chicago tavern style pizza, then they're free to think that, and that would just be a stupid opinion.
Chicago's tavern style forever, man. I mean, those small little corner pieces are where it's at. You don't get that anywhere else.
So I'm the corner slice guy, and my whole family never touched it until recently. Now my daughter enjoys the corner pieces. So it's
so you got to fight her for
now,
it.
Yeah. So for how many years now they've all been mine, and now that's the first slice she goes for, and I'm like, all right, game on, kid, game on. But I'm glad she's learning the importance of the corner piece.
Well, see that as a good thing. She's learning a valuable life lesson that the corner piece is where it's at.
All right, should we actually start talking sports here?
Let's do it.
So, the Cubs have really stunk it up the past couple weeks.
You ain't kidding.
And what's amazing is they've really not lost much of their lead in the division, because everybody in their division has been stinking it up.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, since coming back, they've had their ups and downs. The Brewers were kind of crawling back, and then the Pirates swept them in a series not long ago, and they're kind of just floating along. And, the Reds have been down pretty much the whole time. And, the Cubs started 13-3, and really, you could see them just play 500 ball the rest of the way, and they'd be okay. What's frustrating, though, is that a lot of what the Cubs are doing is what you've seen them do in the past that has resulted in a downfall, whether it's inconsistent offense, bad bullpen, or the rotation kind of showing its age. And look, I think the rotation has obviously come down to earth. That's kind of the least surprising thing, I think, of all of it, because I love John Lester to death, but he's not a guy who's going to generate any swings and misses, and eventually you're going to start getting hits, and everything is not going to turn into an out when there's a ball in play. And there was some regression there, and now Tyler Chatwood might be injured again, and Alec Mills has shown much more good than bad, but I think it's fair to say that he's a guy that's, he's a fifth starter. And again, he's done some very good things, but, he's not going to be exactly like a Kyle Hendricks-like guy, even though he's kind of compared to as that guy in terms of approach. And, there was some room for regression there. And well, the bullpen is what it is. It's going to be hard to change a lot of that. But, boy, the Cubs really got to cut down on the strikeouts. I mean, one of the biggest problems with them is they don't put the ball in play enough. You watch them play other teams, and you see them able to bloop and dunk the ball, and you get frustrated. And sometimes you think, why can't the Cubs get that BABIP block? It's like, well, you got to get that BABIP block if you actually put the ball in play. I mean, today they did, and they hit a bunch of home runs. And the offense this series has looked much better than it has in the previous weeks, but you still had problems with the rotation regressing and the bullpen being bad. So you're seeing some of the leaks in this car really start to show, and obviously you're not going to sustain an 800 winning percentage, but I think it's fair to say the Cubs have come down to earth a bit.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
And I mean, the good thing is, over the last 10 games, only one team in the Cubs division has had a winning record.
Yeah.
And that is the Pirates. And they're so far in the basement that it doesn't even matter. Because there's no way they're catching up to anybody. They're 10-21. There's no way that they're catching up. And they were 6-4. So everybody else was either 4-6 or 5-5. So it's the Cubs have been able to maintain because everybody else has been so bad. And the thing is, we're over halfway through the season.
Yeah, isn't that nuts?
So if the Cubs play 500 baseball for the rest of the season, it's going to be tough for anybody to catch up. Honestly.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
actually
expanded anyway, so
yeah, and that's a pretty easy ask. I mean, it should be a pretty easy ask for the team that they have. And somebody pointed on Twitter, and I thought it was a good quote, and it is accurate. Is this year the Cubs have looked good, but when they've lost, they've looked real bad. Like they don't just lose games; they lose in spectacular fashion. It's either a blowout or an implosion loss with the closer giving up multiple runs in the last inning. Like it's not been like 1-run games, that where they just faltered all the way through the game. It's been absolute blowouts where the wheels came off, and it's crazy to think that a team that's most likely going to win the division is in a position of being able to win this division, and they look so bad when they lose.
Yeah, well, they did what they were supposed to do early on. When they started the season, their schedule was very favorable, and you only play who's on your schedule, and they were able to take advantage of that and build this big lead, because if they didn't build that big lead, the standings would probably look pretty different right now. Much more tight, much more stressful, where they were able to build a pretty big cushion to where the recent stretch hasn't dropped them out of first place yet.
I mean, their schedule in general is, they're playing the Royals, who should be an easy win. The Tigers, who should be a fairly easy win. They're not a good team. The Twins have really come back down to earth.
Yeah. No kidding.
The Indians, the Cubs have handled so far, even though I think they're playing over their heads. The Cardinals aren't that good of a team. The Brewers aren't that good of a team, especially considering that one of their best hitters opted out of the season. The Reds are the Reds, and the Pirates are terrible. So that leaves the White Sox as the lone team that should be a tough one, tough series, which it was. So the Cubs should be doing better than they are, because they're not, they really aren't receiving the biggest challenge. You look where the Yankees are playing a lot of tough opponents. And when you go out west, you've got the Dodgers and the Padres and the Rockies, who are all pretty tough. And you add into that, the Giants are suddenly on a tear.
Where did that come from?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Have you looked at that Giants roster? You look at half those guys and you're like, who?
I know.
It's like, okay, there's what's his face, Brandon Belt, the rotting corpse of Pablo Sandoval, and it's like, what else?
But they're stringing it together. So, the Cubs.
Good for them.
The Cubs, in theory, should be having a much easier time, and they got shell shocked by the White Sox in the worst way that you could want it. Like, you're like, just don't have Eloy and the young stars smash home runs. And they're like, oh, well, they're just going to smash home runs. And then Jose Abreu is going to just absolutely run roughshod on you. And it's a tough one to swallow. And you put that measuring stick and arrows pointing up on one team and down on the other. And the team with the up arrow is just, put an ass whooping on you.
Yeah, well, that first game, the John Lester matchup, that was a disaster in the making. I mean, it really was. That from a mile away, we could see that was going to be a really tough matchup for the Cubs, and the White Sox were able to take advantage of that. I mean, you have a soft tossing lefty who doesn't miss bats like he used to, and you have a team that crushes lefties. Not a recipe for success. And we saw that.
Yeah, I mean, Darvish was the saving grace of that series, period.
Well, I don't think there's any question right now to me that Darvish is their best player right now.
Absolutely. Darvish is, it's like, he's like Samson with that hair. I mean, he goes out there and it's like a source of power for him. He looks younger. He's throwing arguably the best of his career. He just looks fantastic out there. You feel real confident when he's on the mound.
And yesterday's game, in game one of the doubleheader, he didn't have his most dominant stuff, but he was still able to get outs and keep his, cool. He's throwing strikes, man. I mean, his command is spot on right now. And the fact that he's able to work out of things even when his stuff isn't quite as good, that says a lot right there. I mean, it really does. He was able to get some timely strikeouts yesterday. There was a decent amount of traffic against him yesterday, and he wasn't striking out guys quite as much. But when he needed to dial up a K, where he needed to dot a corner or throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball that runs in on you, he was able to still do it. And remember, it felt like just yesterday when he first came to the Cubs where you didn't really trust him that much. You thought, okay, he's just going to crumble. This is what he does, where we've seen the exact opposite of that this year. Really going back to the second half of last year. I mean, you remember the second half of last year, he was looking like his old self again. And, right now he sits. I really don't like the win-loss stat, as most people don't right now. But, leading the majors with 6 wins, 6-1. Again, I don't like the stat, but I think it does kind of speak volumes that he's keeping his team in every game. But what sticks out to me is the 1.47 ERA, the fielding independent pitching of 2.02 in 43 innings of work. That's 7 starts with a 2.02 fielding independent pitching. And his walk, base on ball per 9, is 1.7. Versus 10.9 strikeouts per 9. Yep. Those are some really dang good numbers.
Yep. And what's funny is, so I can't remember if it was the first part of last year or if it was the year before, but he was back and the stuff was either really good or he was walking everybody. Was it the early part of last year where he was walking everybody?
The early part of last year, he had like a ridiculous walk rate.
Yeah, okay, that's when it was. He was walking everybody, and you watched it, and you're like, the stuff isn't bad. It's just he has no control, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And you felt like if you just stood up there and didn't swing, put your shoulder on the bat, a bat on the shoulder, and you just stood there for however many pitches, he's gonna walk you. But he would throw
I too
some
like putting my shoulder on the bat.
Whichever way you wanted to go, America. And you'd watch him throw some like disgusting curveballs in there, but everything, his slider, his fastball were just wild. And suddenly he just found that command again. And I don't know if there was issue with the mechanics, or if there was some sort of blister issues or some sort of pain that caused him to alter this release point. I don't know what it was, but second half of last year figured it out. And it was the stuff. The stuff was never bad. It was just the walk issue. And now it's just, he's so dialed in that you feel like he could have the bases loaded with no outs. And you're like, you know what? It wouldn't shock me if he strikes out the next guy and then gets somebody to ground into a double play. You're like, I have the confidence he can do it because his command is so good and the stuff is so good.
Put this in perspective, going back to that whole walk thing from last year. So last year on the season, he walked 56 guys. Okay, so keep that in mind. 56 walks on the year. Now, through his first 12 games, he walked 41 guys. 41 of the 56 came in the first 12 games.
Yeah. I mean, second half of last year, he was phenomenal. And I have a friend who's a Yankees fan. And I don't think he watches anything but Yankees games. And then he'll just look at face value stats. And he was like trying to rib me about Yu Darvish. And I was like, well, he was injured. And then, but the second half of last year, he was just phenomenal. And he's like, you call this win-loss record phenomenal? And I'm like, just look at the second half. And I was like, I feel really confident going forward. And that just reminds me that I want to rub it in what he looks like. Yu Darvish looks like this year because he's been really good.
Also, just to put something in perspective, his final 9 starts of last year, final 9, that's 57 and 2/3 worth of innings. He walked a total of 5 guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had
versus 88 strikeouts.
Yeah, I had stats at the end of last season about how terrific like that last block of starts were, and I wish I still had them, but he was so good. If you could extrapolate those like last 9, 10, 12 starts, that's Cy Young worthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he throws like 12 different types of pitches, and you just see the wicked movement on some of these pitches. The way the fastball dances, he throws in the upper 90s, like he's touched 98, 99. And the fact that he's able to put the movement on the ball like that, I mean, it defies physics. It really does. It's amazing.
And that head of hair of his.
Yeah, it's great.
Us bald guys are just so jealous. I'm like, man.
Well, I'm not bald.
You're not bald. I'm saying like me and the bald guys that are listening here, and
is there a bald society or something?
Hey, it's not a society. It's like a, we're like a underground club. We give each other the nod.
I see.
When we go to sporting events, we're like, yeah, you're going to burn too. You better get a hat. But
get a bucket hat.
I went to Lake Geneva yesterday with my family, and
love it there.
And it's I told my wife, and I normally hate sunscreen, but I was like, you know what? I go from like milk to lobster in 3 seconds. Like I don't tan. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of like going to like the lake or whatever and just being sunburned and then feeling crappy the next several days. I'm like, fine. I hate wearing sunscreen, but I'm going to do it. So I had my wife put sunscreen on me and on my head, and she just like basically put it on so much I ended up looking like the old guy from the Great America commercials. Look like Grandpa Munster. And my wife totally had a good joke there, and she couldn't pull it off, and she was just like, "You look like that guy from that thing." And I just, I was like, "The what?" They're like, "Oh my god, you had a joke. It was sitting there on a tee, and you just whiffed. You had a Happy Gilmore style whiff on that."
Now, when you were Lake Geneva, did you stay there, or you just go for the day?
We just went for the day.
Okay.
My daughter's best friend's dad, or her grandparents live there, so we're friends with her dad, and so they're like, "Oh, come on up for the day," and so we went up there, got there, mid-afternoon, and barbecued and went out on the lake and did some tubing and little swimming and just had a couple drinks, and it was nice.
I always love going there. It's such a nice time going there.
Yeah, and I didn't realize, like, the nice part is it's not terribly far, but there was no traffic, so it was we cruised on the way home.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, have you ever been to Gordy's up there?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's a nice. If you ever go to Lake Geneva again, go to Gordy's.
Okay, is it a restaurant?
It's a restaurant/boat rental dock.
Okay, all right.
It's away from the main downtown area. It's like kind of on the other side of the lake, but it's a very popular place. It's been business a long time. That's one of my favorite places to go there. I also like hanging out at the beach in that little dock area by the downtown. You know, that dock that has like the inside stores, and you can kind of go outside where the boats are. It's got that fountain right there. There used to be this amazing Chicago pizza place, but it's gone now, and I almost cried when I found out it was gone. Like, I almost had tears.
It was funny. I was talking to, the grandfather of my daughter's friend, and I was like, "Oh, are you from here originally?" I'm like, I don't know if people moved there or they're from there, and he goes, "Oh, no, I'm not from here." He's like, "I moved here. He's like, I'm from Elkhorn." I'm like, "Isn't that like 10 minutes away?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, then just say, "Yeah, you're from here." I'm used to people that are like, from 2 hours, they're from south of Joliet, and they're like, "I'm from Chicago." And this guy won't even claim Lake Geneva, and he grew up 10 minutes away.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm like, nobody outside of, an hour radius has heard of Elkhorn. So, you could say, yes, I'm from Lake Geneva, and I'm not going to judge you.
There you go. You ever go to the Brat Stop?
Oh,
I'm
vegetarian.
I know, but they have like good cheese there.
I go to the Cheese Castle.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, the Mars Cheese Castle is my haunt, and I'm sure that everyone that is native of that area or frequents that area more than I do will probably be like, "Dude, it's just a tourist trap. There's better places." But you know what? It's a damn castle where you buy cheese.
So shut up.
Yeah. Okay. It might be the tourist trap, and it's the same thing if like, "Dude, you don't even know the cool hangouts in Orlando," and like, yeah, I went to Disney. Shut up.
Yeah, am I supposed to know? Like, okay.
I don't care about the go-kart track that's, in the sketch part of town. I just went to Disney. All right. Again.
You know, I do love going to Wisconsin. Like, there are a lot of great things in Wisconsin. There's great food, great sights, great simple things to do. They like the simple life up there. If you just want to go to a nice lodge and like fish, or you just want to, chill by a lake somewhere, Wisconsin's a great way to do it. The only thing I don't like about Wisconsin is just how much Packers apparel I see.
I was going to say, yeah, they're just their sports teams in general.
Yeah.
Why?
Though,
Why are 7 out of 10 Packers items made with camouflage?
That's their thing up there. That's their thing.
That's their favorite color.
Ask my friend from Wisconsin, my friend Kevin from Wisconsin. I met him at college. He'll have an answer for you.
But so yesterday, Alec Mills didn't have the best of games, but the bullpen came in and did a nice job holding the fort down. And that is until Craig Kimbrell just sucked it up again. That's his first blown save.
Yeah, I know. I think that's like the first game they've actually blown. As bad as the bullpen has been, like where they had a lead in the final inning and blew it and lost. I think that was like the first time overall. I know that was Craig Kimbrell's first blown save, but yeah, as soon as he walked the first guy, like you knew it was going to be a disaster, and it was, and it was just so ugly and so frustrating because the last few weeks you thought, hey, Craig Kimbrell might be back. He's throwing 98, 99 miles an hour again. He's locating better. He's getting swings and misses at the breaking ball. He's locating the fastball better. Hey, maybe he's turning around, and he looked like the bad Craig Kimbrell yesterday.
Yeah, brought his ERA back to over 10. I'm just frustrated, and it's hard to blame David Ross because I don't know if there's a correct answer for the closer spot, because
it wasn't even David Ross yesterday.
Oh yeah, because he got thrown out.
He was ejected. Yeah. It was Napoli was managing, but I can't really blame him either. You got to remember they were playing game 2 of a doubleheader. They already pitched Jeremy Jeffress, and I think they already pitched Rowan Wick as well. So you didn't really have that much of a choice.
You did Wick. The first game, Jeffress didn't pitch. He pitched the second game, but
Jeffress closed out the first game.
What I thought the 3-0 game was the second game. Was it the first game?
Yeah, that was the first game.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
First game when they won 3-0, Jeremy Jeffress got the save.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought that was the second game. The Craig Kimbrell
second game's the one they choked on.
Yeah, Wick pitched in that game. He pitched the second to last inning, but it's everybody has had some sort of chink in the armor. I mean, even Jeffress, who's been overall really good, he's had a couple wobbly innings. Rowan Wick has had some wobbly innings. Tapura had some rough innings. Everybody has had some sort of meltdown at some point. I mean, Craig Kimbrell probably more than most. So it's hard to find a group of people to trust. And when you're pitching in these double headers, to get all the games you can get in a season, it makes it doubly hard. I don't blame David Ross in how he's handling it, because he's sort of in a tough situation.
Yeah, and Jeremy Jeffress is arguably their best reliever right now, and he's been doing it a lot more he hasn't been striking out people and throwing 99, 100 miles an hour, so obviously there's a little more risk when the ball is put in play. It's one of those things where you don't have that reliever where when they come in, the other team feels like, oh God, we have no chance. It's not like bringing in, Wade Davis from a few years ago, or even Hector Rondon from a few years ago, or like when we had Chapman that, short amount of time. Obviously, he was burned out by the end of the World Series, Rajay Davis, but, they don't have that guy. I mean, Josh Hader makes me want to puke. But like, when he comes in, you feel like your chances are slim to none. And, you think of all the other great relievers, Mariano Rivera in his prime, Trevor Hoffman in his prime, those are the guys that when they came in, you felt like you were done. The Cubs don't have anything close to that. And hats off to Jeremy Jeffress. He's been really dang good overall, but even so, there are ways, even though it doesn't happen often, there are ways to get to him.
It's hard to say, oh, we don't have a Mariano Rivera because, like, he's the greatest closer that's ever pitched, and that guy for like 10 years was like a done deal when he came into the game for the most part. That not a lot of guys like that. Craig
Kimbrell was that guy for a while, not now.
But Mariano Rivera was just like that guy. He just like all right. I know it's not fair to compare anyone to like him, but you know what I mean. I mean, Wade Davis was about, in my lifetime, arguably probably the most comfortable I felt in a closer situation. With the Cubs having.
Oh, he was my favorite closer we ever had. I mean, he blew one save the entire year. I mean,
I've seen some good ones, but man, we've Shooter, as good as he was, he put a fear in you sometimes. Mitch Williams, like
Mitch Williams,
you were like, which Mitch Williams are we getting? Are we getting the one that's going to come in and strike out the side, or are we going to get the one that's going to give up 3 home runs? And you didn't know. I mean, we've had some of the really good names of closers, but
remember all those years of Carlos Marmol?
No, Carlos Marmol.
He'd walk the bases loaded, then strike out the next 3 guys every time.
You just never knew what you're getting that guy either. But yeah, I mean, we've had some of the great ones, and like Wade Davis was just as smooth as you could be. Like, you just felt confident. You just went in there, nothing crazy, didn't get your blood pressure going. Like, there's nothing worse than you're like, all right, the closer's coming in, and your blood pressure shoots up 40 points. Like, that's not sustainable. You're gonna have a heart attack.
No.
But the other side of town, man, things are coming up Millhouse for the White Sox.
Yeah, I can't really say anything overly critical for them right now. I mean, they're getting the hits, they're mashing the ball, their starting rotation is looking better. I mean, we saw the historical performance of Lucas Giolito throwing a no-hitter against the Pirates the other night, struck out 13 guys.
On 101 pitches.
101 pitches, too. Yeah, I mean, everything is coming up good for them, and I felt like they needed to just reach that point where everything needed to click, and they've reached that point. I mean, this team looks like they can go on a run right now. They are confident. They look focused. They look like they can take on the world, and they just have a stupid amount of talent. And I got to give them credit because they're building something that's going to be special for a very, very long time.
I mean, you look, Tim Anderson has over 1,000 OPS. Eloy has over 900 OPS. Abreu has an over 1,000 OPS.
He had a heck of a week.
Yeah, Luis Robert has a 900 OPS. James McCann has a 940 OPS. Like, you've got people that are just mashing the hell out of the ball. And it's insane. And the thing is, James McCann, I think, is an important cog to this team. And I don't know how you keep him. And I mean, I think he is the key to unlocking the best out of Lucas Giolito.
It's kind of funny, like who would have thought James McCann would be considered like a key cog in the team? I mean, he was a career nobody backup for a number of years in Detroit. And it's like, oh, here's the 220 career batting backup catcher. Okay, whatever. And he's turned out not only to be like a valuable bat, but like you said, a valuable battery mate as well for the pitching staff, Lucas Giolito included, who had a cool moment where he turned around and thanked C.B. Buckner for calling a good game as they were about to celebrate after the no-hitter. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing where, sometimes the key cogs come from places you don't expect.
Yeah, but you look at it and you've got Grandal signed to be your catcher for a lot of money. You've got a number of guys that are DH candidates. You've got guys in the minor that are DH candidates. There's not enough at bats for McCann, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. They've got the money to be able to sign him, but why in the world would a guy stay to be a backup and a reserve? When he could probably be getting a lot of money from a team to be a power hitting catcher.
He's built value, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's absolutely built. He has, barring some sort of serious injury, that guy has made himself a lot of money. And now that they're seeing the importance of him with Lucas Giolito, they're like, oh, maybe this guy catching could unlock some of the best in some of our young pitchers. And we know we're going to get a hell of an at-bat from him, at least allowed out. And, people are going to pay for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just don't see how he comes back to the White Sox. And, I think that's...
I don't know.
I'm not going to make it... And I'm not going to make it...
He might want to come back.
But if somebody's offering you, stupid catcher money, like a Grandal type contract, and the White Sox are going to offer you, a 3-year, $12 million contract, it's tough. I'm sure the White Sox will offer him money, but, this is basically his one last probably big contract. And, take advantage of it. And I'm not saying that James McCann is the difference between the White Sox winning a World Series and them just suffering for, a playoff drought for another however many years. Listen, that he is not the most important cog, but we all know that in baseball, it's you need the solid, all-star type players, but you also need role players that have career years in order to win a World Series. There's always you always need that guy that comes in and he's like the key guy that just is having a career year. Like Ben Zobrist was one of the keys to a team that has Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, and Ben Zobrist was probably the most important cog. It's you look at all the times the Cardinals won World Series and some schlub ends up being, hits 900 down the stretch to help them win it. James McCann is one of those secondary pieces that adds a lot of value. And is he as important
absolutely.
as Luis Robert or Eloy Jimenez or Tim Anderson? No, but I think he adds a lot of value, and I just, I don't know how they keep him.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's one of those things where you need to have a complete team effort and not just rely on a group of people. And if James McCann can keep providing that, then that's going to be huge.
Yeah, and with the White Sox, you're also seeing a lot of good pitching lately. Like we said, Giolito with the no. Dallas Keuchel has, he's got a sub-3 ERA. He's been huge for this team.
Yeah, to me, he's been their best pitcher overall. He's been the most consistent.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And he's been a kind of a veteran guy with, calling out the team publicly when they needed to. He's their Johnny Lester.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, it doesn't hurt that the White Sox are playing the Pirates and the Royals, probably the two worst teams on their schedule. But you know what? You win the games that you got scheduled.
You play who's on your schedule. You got to beat who you got to beat. That's what good teams do.
Right. Even Reynaldo Lopez came in and pitched a decent game to beat the Royals. Today they got another big win against the Royals. And Dunning pitched five shutout innings. So the White Sox, Luis Robert had another home run, almost double digit now in home runs. And that guy is killing it, First year in the majors, and just what was that? 2 years ago he was in Single A, and the guy is batting slash line at 291, 339, 581.
He's looking to be a top player in baseball, and I think he's really on that path. I mean, he's disgustingly good.
He's disgustingly good. The White Sox are piecing this together, and if you can maintain your starters, I'm not concerned about. They've got enough big bopper bats where I think they can absorb a slump of a guy or two here or there.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can keep putting out competent starting guys where they just, keep you 3 runs or less. The sky's the limit. And, they've got the bats where they can really put up some runs on teams. It's just if they can maintain that starting pitching, and that's a big if. You feel, all right, Lucas Giolito has had an up and down season, but I think it seems like he's figuring it out. Dallas Keuchel has been really good. After that, it's who knows. But where you probably shrink that rotation when you make the playoffs. And I'm saying when. I think the White Sox, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put this out into the universe. And Gary, I know you're listening and you're probably going to be mad at me for saying this. I guarantee the White Sox make the postseason this year.
I'd be really shocked if they didn't. Unbelievably shocked if they didn't.
Yes, I just I don't see how they don't. This team is too good, and your bats are it's just such a loud offense, and you have Tim Anderson setting the table for everything. The sky's the limit for this team. The rotation is going to fix itself. And the offense is just starting to hit on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's something to see. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not that old. I'm 26 years old, and I've watched a lot more Cubs than White Sox, obviously, and I did see the '05 team, but I don't remember a White Sox team dominating quite like this. Not in these past few weeks. I mean, it's pure domination.
They've looked great. And sorry to suddenly switch gears here. I'm just kind of looking at Kyle Schwarber's numbers. The guy is batting .228 with an .833 OPS.
Yeah. I mean, he had. Did you hear about the history the Cubs made today?
No.
First team to have 2 home runs by every outfielder. Kyle
Oh
Schwarber
yeah,
had 2 home runs.
Hap had
Jason
2.
Hayward
Hayward.
and Ian Happ all had 2 home runs.
Jason Hayward's OPS right now, 961.
He's killing the ball, man. Like, you saw the home runs he hit today. You've seen some of the hits he is scolding the ball. And every time Jason Hayward scolds the ball, I just have a big smile on my face because I love when he's mashing.
Ian Happ has an over 1,000 OPS right now.
He's been their most consistent hitter. And did you hear about the trade they made today?
No, I didn't.
So they acquired former Cardinal and Ray Jose Martinez this morning for like a player to be named later. Probably going to be used in a DH role more than anything. I'm sure you remember seeing Jose Martinez on the Cardinals for a number of years, but
Yeah.
he's struggled this year a bit, but he's a career 294, 361, 455 hitter. Got 43 career home runs in 422 games. He hits lefties well, so that's probably why they got him. This is probably the biggest type of deal you'll see with the Cubs. And the White Sox, I don't think they're going to be making any big trades. And Rick Hahn has kind of said that. You don't think so?
I'm hearing Mike Clevenger.
Where have you heard? I haven't seen that.
USA Today.
Like they're in serious talks or they're targeting him?
No, it says Indians talking Mike Clevenger trade with AL Central rival White Sox. From today.
They would trade him in division?
To a team that they're competing against, they're tied for first place.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It does not. I think there's probably some locker room stuff because didn't they suspend Clevenger for?
Well, but why? Still, you would trade him to a division rival?
I don't know. Not sure.
Well, I just wonder if I don't know. Wouldn't you think the Indians would have a pretty big asking price for that if it's a division rival?
And he's under team control through 2022 with he's earning a prorated $4.1 million salary this year and is arbitration eligible the next 2 years. And since 2017, he has a sub-3 ERA with over 10 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, I'm seeing here White Sox Indians reportedly discussing on Mike Clevenger, Sox among top 3 suitors to land Clevenger, and it'll be trade deadline rumors. Padres, White Sox in on Clevenger. There's an increasing belief among teams Mike Clevenger has a good chance to be dealt. Indians have 6 very good or better starters, all on cost control, efficient deals. Price is apparently high. I mean, obviously it would be. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that would be huge for the White Sox.
What would they have to give up to get that?
I don't know.
They would probably ask for one of their top farm guys, I would think, or at least one of their somebody of note.
I mean, you'd have to.
I think they'd probably look in the offensive direction because they got plenty of pitching.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Vaughn maybe.
Well, that's what I was thinking too.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. Is if you move Andrew Vaughn and you part ways after the season with Encarnacion, who's not been living up to the contract, is you could throw that money at James McCann and alternate catcher DH duties with Grandal and find at bats for him that way. and then you end up with Mike Clevenger. Just saying, maybe these things sort themselves out.
Maybe. Though I feel like if you throw in if Andrew Vaughn's going to be a piece, I feel like there'd have to be another piece thrown in there as well.
Probably, but I mean, he's close to being major league ready. I'm sure you have to probably throw in, I don't know, maybe an Alec Hansen.
I'm not really sure. I feel like their asking price is going to be pretty high, but we'll see what happens.
Well, for a guy that's in his 20s, late 20s, but in his 20s with over the last 3 years having a sub-3 ERA and a greater than 10 strikeouts per 9.
Control. That's
cost control for several seasons. That's worthy of a big time deal. But the White Sox got the guys, so and they don't like to pay people. So
yeah, I mean,
it fits the bill.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you want to win, we've seen it with the Cubs and other teams, you're going to have to give up some of those assets.
And you know what? This might be a 60-game season, but that trophy is still the trophy. And if you win it this year, that takes all the pressure off the upcoming years of having these guys locked up. I mean, we got one in the bag. So just saying.
Yeah.
Anything else baseball you want to talk?
Not that I could think of. It'll be interesting to see how the next few weeks go. All I got to say for the Cubs is they better beat the Pirates.
I know they better just run roughshod on them. Repad this lead. Enough of the malarkey.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be a weird postseason, especially if we do these bubble sites for postseason in Texas and Los Angeles.
Yeah, we'll see. So we got I guess we could talk a little bit of Bulls. We had the NBA draft lottery, and the Bulls they were slotted for the 7th spot, and they moved up to 4th. It would have been real nice to have a top 3, because I think those top 3 guys are the 3 far and away best guys. But you know what? 4 is much better than 7, and you're going to get a pretty darn good player.
Man, 1 year of Arturas Karnisovas, and the luck is already changing, it seems like.
It's true. It's funny. I was sitting there, and I was reading stories to my daughter, and I had the alert set on my phone. So I was, as it was going on, and I had it on in the other room, but I was reading to my daughter. So I was like, so I ran in there and I was like, wait, so the Bulls still haven't been called yet? And I was like, oh man, they must have already done 7. And I look quick and I'm like, they didn't get 7. So I'm like, well, they moved up at least 1 spot. And then it keeps going. And I run in, I've read her stories and got her settled down. And I run in and I'm like, oh man, they got 4th. I'm like, AK for the win. Nice. We're going to have a new coach. We're going to have a competent front office. We're going to have a top 4 pick. This is everything's starting to come up Millhouse for this team.
It's nice, isn't it?
It is nice. And I haven't watched enough of some of these guys to other than the top 3, I've seen a lot of them. I really like LaMelo. I hope somehow he's able to fall, but beyond the top three, I got to start watching some guys to see who's a legit player that the Bulls can draft here.
Yeah, I got to catch up on my scouting report as well. But what I can say is that when you have the fourth pick, obviously it's not one or two, but you have a chance to land a really good impact player. And if you add said impact player to a core that you have that's actually under the right coaching where they could actually reach their full potential because they're being played right, then all of a sudden you might be looking at a much better situation with the team overall in a short time. Now, granted, from actual contention, they're still a ways away, but you have an opportunity to take a real big step.
I'm looking at a mock trade here from Bleacher Report, and it's got the Bulls, the Warriors, and the Thunder in a 3-team trade. Oklahoma City Thunder would receive Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins. Golden State would receive Thaddeus Young, Thomas Satoransky, and Mike Muscala. And the Bulls would receive Chris Paul, the number 25 overall pick, the number 51 overall pick.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean, you get Chris Paul, but you're paying him he's 35, and you're going to be paying him a ton of money. Wait, you're going to be paying him $41.4 million for next season, and he's going to have a $44.2 million player option for the next year.
And you're not going to be good enough to win a championship yet.
Yeah, and so you'll have the 4th pick, the 25th pick, the 51st pick, and whatever the 44th pick, whatever their second round is. So, like, okay, those other, basically you have the 4th pick, and then maybe you have a bench player with those other 3. Like, I don't, why would you do that?
Why would any of those teams do that?
Well,
what would Golden State benefit from that?
I think they dump money, they dump salary.
Oh, okay, that's fair, but aren't they trying to get back into win mode?
Well, they just need guys healthy. I mean, you get everybody healthy, and suddenly...
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have, an awesome draft pick, and they're going to just suddenly get all their all-stars healthy again.
That's right. They get healthy again, they have all those... Man.
It's just they're right back into it, so it's not really fair. So I don't know, but I'm just excited. We're gonna have a real head coach, real front office, and like we're gonna have they're gonna work together in a cohesive nature to get the best out of these young players. I'm excited to watch a Bulls game.
Haven't said that in a while.
I know. I'm excited for the draft. I don't even know when the draft is. When is the draft? Have they even set the date? I know with COVID. NBA draft date.
It'll probably be virtual.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be virtual. October 16th. So it's the day after my daughter's 6th birthday.
Oh, there you go.
So I won't forget that.
Dad, I want a pony for my birthday. Sorry, I gotta watch the draft.
Sorry, you're getting NBA draft birthday. That's just what every 6-year-old girl
will
like
it.
You're gonna like it, or you're gonna get a whooping.
as you dump meatball sauce all over yourself again.
Dad, I don't watch that. I don't want to watch this. That's a paddling. That's a paddling.
As Sean ladles more sauce all over him.
LaMelo comes to the Bulls.
You got your Michael Jordan jersey, your old 90s Bulls baseball cap, and you're going to town on marinara.
Yeah, I've got my reissued Jordan 1s on.
There you go. There you go. You're going all out.
I don't really want to talk hockey tonight.
There's nothing to talk about when it comes to the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, the series against the Golden Knights was, it just showed you how how much room they have to grow. I mean, you were, I guess, hopeful in a lot of ways because they did compete against a really good team, but
we owe Corey Crawford a lot.
We owe Corey Crawford a lot, and is he our goalie next year?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, you're either going to have to pay him,
which you don't have any money,
or right, the salary cap issue for the Hawks is bleak. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how bleak it is. And you don't really have anyone in your system that's a proven NHL goaltender.
No, you don't. The only hope for the Blackhawks is somehow they allow an amnesty of a player and you're able to get rid of Brent Seabrook.
Right. Or Scott Foster quits his accounting job and comes back to the NHL. And you have your other two goalies just pretend to get hurt every game so he could come in and he's not on your payroll. Oh, my arm hurts. Oh, I decapitated myself. I can't play. Somebody says that, like, let's say Malcolm Subban's on the team next year. He just puts his jersey over like his head, and he has like a really paper mache head. I decapitated myself. I can't play.
Oh, thank goodness.
Can I just bring up something really funny, just really random?
Absolutely.
I'm really passionate about Chicago sports history, particularly sports history and old stadiums. Like that's something I'm really interested in. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing a lot of reading and research on Old Chicago Stadium. And I'd never been to Old Chicago Stadium before, obviously. It was torn down the year I was born. But, I've been doing a lot of research on the stadium and looking at so many photos. And, I have one popped up on my screen right now. And it's the side view of the completed brand new United Center next to Chicago Stadium. And can I just laugh at the size difference? Like, holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, look at any old stadium next to the new stadiums, and it's mind melting.
Now, I'm sure you've been to the old stadium.
I have.
I've seen videos and pictures, but I just was the experience truly as unique as people say it was?
Yes. I mean, it was really loud, and it was. I don't know if I've ever been there for a Bulls game. I think I've only ever been there for Blackhawks games. Mm-hmm. But it was like the damn Wild West. I remember we went once, and there was two fans that got into a fist fight, and as they're fighting, they fell down the stairs, wrestling and punching. And as they're rolling down the stairs, whoever was in the aisle seat just started throwing punches too as they rolled by, just because they were like, I'm going to throw a punch too. And so they get down to the end, and then somebody broke it up. But at that point, 12 people had thrown a punch, and without only two of them ever left their seats.
Wasn't there a fight in the stands like every day there?
There was always a fight in the stands.
Part of it. Like, seriously, my math teacher from freshman year of high school told me, yeah, I went to a Hawks game once at the old stadium, and people just poured beer on us from the upper deck. They were sitting right under the upper deck, and people were just pouring beer on them.
I went to a game once, and somebody hit me with baloney.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because I look at like the way the seats were shaped, like the seating area, and what's really weird to see is that like when it curves towards like the shorter ends, like there's only like 2 rows on the side. Like it's weird. It's weird to me. But I think it's also so cool how you got to see that giant organ. Like I think that's so neat.
But Chicago Stadium was an experience, and I want to say I went to a game the last year that they had games there. I'm fairly sure I was. I want to say it was a game against the Blues, and there were multiple fights on the ice.
Yeah, sounds right. Sounds right.
And I'm looking at that picture of the old Chicago Stadium, and
just something I want to bring up. I was always very fascinated by the place, even though I never saw it.
It's amazing how much bigger the United Center is, and this is as it was. This doesn't include like the expanded atrium, which they have now.
Right.
So,
and that's pretty new. That's only like a few years old.
I mean, that's real new. So, with the big store, and so it's even bigger, the stadium. I mean, and that's the thing is, as salaries have gone up, they've increased the price of stadiums, and to compensate for that, you have to have more fan experiences, which leads to, well, we need more room. Before you went to a game and you just sat down in your seat and somebody brought food to you, some vendor, and you just sat your ass in the seat the whole time. And when the game was over, you got up and you left. And the only entertainment was that you watched the game. And it never occurred to me like, oh yeah, you could go play, all the stuff that they have at New Comiskey, and I don't even know what the guaranteed rate field, all the stuff they have, or all the stuff that they have at United Center with old players signing things and people there with the rings, and they have the championship trophies and the multiple stores and the gourmet food, and it's just so much more than what was there when I was a kid. And
it seems like every year now they're adding some new amenities to the United Center.
Oh yeah, I mean, even Wrigley Field, all the amenities they've added. Now you can just go hang out at the park outside and not even watch the game.
Yeah.
And that they kind of stole from Petco. Petco has that, and I remember I recorded one podcast from the Tony Gwynn statue in that little park.
Oh really?
Yeah, and it's kind of a neat thing, is you can just get up and just be an experience. That's kind of what the fans want. They want all these things that are family friendly. They want better food, so they can just eat a real meal at the stadium and not like just some popcorn and a beer.
And hot dogs served to you by lunch ladies. Hey, you'll get it and you'll like it.
Shut your pie hole, you'll get your friggin' hot dog.
I see you like at a concession stand, and even though you don't have hair, you're required to wear a hairnet, and you have like the big apron, and you have the big spoon, and you're wagging it at people.
I'm ladling meatball sauce on the meatball sandwich, and then I start pouring some on myself. The manager comes over, like, how many times do I have to tell you don't do that? Sorry.
You're wasting our product.
I'll wipe it onto the sandwich. No, don't do that.
Ew.
They're just sitting there watching me make their meatball sandwich, and I'm just wiping it from my head onto the bun, and then here you go. And I'm just doing it slowly, never breaking eye contact, and they're so mortified that they can't say anything because they're in disbelief. And I'm like, that'll be $15.85.
Oh yeah, concession prices are ridiculous.
They really are. But I don't know. Let's talk a little Bears. I mean, not a ton here to talk about, but news just trickling out here and there about, because obviously training camp's closed, so you have to wait like the olden days and wait for the news and the beat writers to kind of report things out. And obviously the biggest news is neither quarterback is looking very good.
Wow, neither Bears quarterback is looking very good. In other news, water is wet.
We've got Nick Foles here, who was the Madden simulation where he's going to be the MVP of the league. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Which was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But anyway,
it could happen. Damn it.
I mean, anything could happen, but it's not going to. Let's delve into the. I'm as a homer as they get, and I'm like, that's stupid. There's not enough meatball sauce for that.
This is the guy we have to restrain from getting into a tub of marinara. No, Sean, no, it's not worth it. As you just kick your legs helplessly.
I'm in it.
We just imagine you just getting dragged away by us and your legs are just flailing as you're trying to get to the meatball sauce.
So that's this guy is saying that's the stupidest thing, and that's not going to happen. Neither guy has separated himself from the other one, and honestly, we're less than 2 weeks away from the first game of the season against the Lions, and nobody has separated themselves. So that means what you have is what you'd hoped is somebody would have separated themselves, and that means they would get the majority of the starting reps throughout. But now, because nobody has, they're going to split the starting reps, and that means whoever's going to be the starter opening the opening game is not going to be getting the lion's share of the starting reps. And Matt Nagy said he's not going to publicly name the starter before the opening game. So here we are.
It's going to come down to Nagy bringing them together, and he's going to be like, all right, here's how we're going to decide. Trubisky for heads, Foles for tails. Just going to flip a coin.
And then we've got other battles, which I wasn't expecting to have. The cornerback battle is not shaping up like we had hoped. We got rid of Prince Amukamara, and we brought in several guys to be the opposite starter on the outside from Fuller. And Artie Burns tore his ACL, is done.
Yeah, that's a tough loss.
And that's a tough one. But you're like, okay, well, we got Jalen Johnson from a second rounder. Let's have him step up. He's been injured, and he's finally...
Which was the big concern with him.
Yeah, and it seems like he's back, but hasn't been playing much. So you've had Buster Screen moved over from his slot corner position to the outside and playing as the starter on the outside. And whenever it's you need a nickel back, they move him to the slot, and then they bring in Kevin Tolliver to the other cornerback spot. And so, I don't know. It's not shaping up like I'd hoped. Honestly, I'd hoped somebody would have really stepped up, either Artie Burns or Kevin Tolliver or Jalen Johnson. And that's not to say Jalen Johnson won't, but you'd hope one of those guys would step up, and then you'd have a really good slot corner defenders with Duke Shelley and Buster Screen, fighting that out. You're like, okay, I feel real confident, and now you're starting to not feel nearly as confident with that cornerback situation.
Yeah, I mean, injuries are always obviously a concern, but Jalen Johnson, the question of talent for me isn't there, but we were all concerned because he had injury issues in the past in college. So, the secondary is going to be a spot where you're just going to want to have more production from it. And if you're already having, more serious injuries, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, and then you're seeing David Montgomery with his groin might miss 2 to 4 weeks. And so that's showing the need of another running back. So what are you going to go in there with Ryan Nall and Tariq Cohen? I mean, is that going to open up for Cordero Patterson to get a lion's share of the handoffs? I mean, I think David Montgomery.
Well,
David Montgomery, I think, is really important, and he's in danger of missing actual games here.
Well, I think it goes to show you right then and there that the depth at running back is not there. I mean, Cordero Patterson, I like him a lot, but I'm not sure I'd want him to be like the second running back on the team. And Tariq Cohen struggled last year. Now, hopefully, the play calling for Cohen is better, but David Montgomery is an important piece to this team. And I don't know if they're going to go out and get somebody. And are you going to call up Devonta Freeman? He's available. I don't know, but you don't have a lot of depth on that position.
No, and the timing of it is terrible because you start the season in 2 weeks, and if he's out 2 to 4 weeks, I mean, maybe he's healthy and back by the time the season starts, but maybe he's going to miss the first. I mean, if it goes that full 4 weeks, he's missing 3 games. That's huge,
and that's not good. That's not good.
So, but it's concerning because you're like, all right, well, at what point do we go out and have to pony up for a running back and open up a spot for him?
Yeah, that's a real tough loss. Just, if they had more reliable depth, I wouldn't be as worried. It's the fact that they don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit frustrating here. And what else? We're seeing tight ends look good. The tight end production, Jimmy Graham is looking like Jimmy Graham again.
I'm not trying to get too excited, but I really like what I'm seeing and hearing about Jimmy Graham. I will say that.
Yeah, and Cole Kmet looking good. So you should see infinite better production at the tight end position from last year.
Irony, isn't it? The tight end position was so bad last year, and so far in camp right now, the one that we feel better about is tight end.
I mean, that's what you do. You go out and you get a weakness and you overcompensate, and then another position opens up, and that's kind of why you need depth, because if you got solid depth, then it's a lot easier to replace depth than it is to replace starters. And if you got no depth and starters go down, then you've just got gaping holes. So the NFL is all about hitting on your draft picks and free agents so you don't have glaring holes. And the more you whiff on draft picks or have less number of draft picks, which is, the Bears hit on, a solid number of draft picks, as solid a number as anybody else in the last few years. It's just they've had a lot less draft picks than teams like the Patriots and the Browns and the Packers and the Vikings. So it's just similar hit on percentage, and it's just less number of chances to hit on. So, then you overcompensate with the free agency, and that's how you get into financial trouble. So it's, the Bears are poised to make a bounce back season this year, but they're they're already starting to get hit with the injury bug. Keem Hicks has missed some practices. Allen Robinson has missed some practices. The quarterback position isn't shaping up like you had hoped. Injuries at running back, injury at cornerback. Safety battle's looking good, actually. Linebacker position, you're seeing some guys. I mean, Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith are going to be your guys, but the depth guys are showing up for that battle at the backup spots. You feel confident with the pass rush. Offensive line, Rashad Coward is a guy that you would hope would step up, and he's really faded back. So you're seeing the guy that they brought in that was not that great with Seattle, looking like he's going to be the starting guard. Got to hope for the best, and we haven't seen any preseason games to be excited about or to be upset about. It's a black box, and week 1 when they show up to play the Lions, we have no expectations and we have nothing to measure against. It's going to be 100% of our visibility into this team is boom right there on our TV on a Sunday.
Yep.
But the one last thing I want to bring up is a positive note. Is I saw that former Bear Sam Acho was trying to open an old liquor store in the south side of Chicago and convert it into a grocery store because the area it's in is a food desert. So, and Mitch Trubisky, Ryan Pace, and Charles Leno provided him the money he needed to open that grocery store there in that community.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's a good story. That's positive. That's bringing a positive change to the community, and kudos to the 4 of them for making that happen, because it's, if you're in a community and that's poor and you don't maybe not have an automobile, you rely on public transportation, and you have to transfer with groceries, go 7, 8, 9 bus stops and transfer to another bus and drive another, 2-3 miles to get groceries and then lug them back. That's difficult.
Very.
You end up with getting McDonald's and, chips for breakfast, and it just, because it's easier and quicker to get. And, even if you're a major city, there's a lot of food deserts in the community. So being able to open up and provide actual healthy food and vegetables and things like that for people to purchase, like that's big, and kudos to them for recognizing a problem and financially putting their money where their mouths are.
Yeah, no, really, really good thing that they're doing. Very, very proud. Hats off to them, because that little act can go a long way. I know it's not a little act. Obviously, you need good funds and good organization to do that, but it's one store, but it could make such a difference. Such a difference.
That one store, changed the lives of the people living there, as far as healthy food and nutrition, job opportunities, and just replacing a liquor store is huge. So
yeah,
putting money into underserved communities is huge.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Spotify, Google Play, etc. Make sure to follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan.
She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.